It's Tuesday, October 24th, and you're listening to the Beer Temple Insiders Roundtable. Go.
Remember, this is what we wanted. Remember, this is what we said. To never be heard or seen from again. Remember, this is what we wanted. Remember, this is what we said. To never be heard or seen from again.
Hello, welcome to the Beer Temple Insiders Roundtable. I'm your co-host, Chris Quinn, and I am joined by my other co-host, your other co-host,
Same, both.
Mike Shalal. What's up, Mike? How are you?
Not much. I'm doing pretty well. How are you?
Good. I was listening as I was putting up the podcast from last week or 2 weeks ago, the Eat It with Tom. I was listening to the first few minutes of it, and I was reminded that we should thank WLPN each week, 105.5 FM, for having us on. So thanks to everyone out there who's listening via 105.5, and thanks to the fearless leaders over at that station for having us on for all these years. And thanks to everyone out there listening via however you are. Probably podcast is how most people find us.
Probably.
But yeah.
It's 2023.
Yes, it is. Not much longer, though.
No?
Towards the, we're in Q4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Big finance guy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
How you feeling about the Phils tonight?
Pretty good. They just scored while I was talking to you, so.
All right.
Yeah, they're up. Yep, they're up. So I'm feeling pretty good.
The first.
I'm still very nervous, though.
The first Game 7 in Phillies history.
Yes, it is.
They also have the most losses of any franchise in any professional sport all time.
Yeah, well, they were really bad for a really long time.
Yeah. A lot of losses.
Not this year, though.
Yeah. Never lost a Game 7, though.
True.
So that's got that going for you.
It's true. I've never lost a Game 7. So yeah, I'm doing well. I've got some. Maybe if we take a quick break, I'll go chill down.
Early.
When we do, if we do later, I've got some Italian beers that we can open up.
Nice.
Yeah. So we'll see how that is. But we got a full house here. We got a lot of people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great panel.
Mm-hmm. But before we get to them, how are you?
I'm good.
Good. Okay. How was the anything happen while I was gone?
Did anything happen while you were gone? That sounds like a leading question. The Phillies
Somebody's
made it to the
birthday,
ALCS.
maybe, that you should remember. No, I'm
I
kidding.
don't know. Was it your birthday?
No, I'm joking. I was just trying to make you feel bad.
Oh.
Like you forgot somebody's birthday.
Whose birthday was
I mean, it probably
No.
was somebody's, and I've also forgotten. So.
My best friend from growing up's birthday is tomorrow. Happy birthday, Andrew.
Long time listener, Andrew.
Andrew.
Cool.
Andrew in where's he? Bethel, Connecticut.
Okay. Cool. Let's keep rolling with this.
Yeah.
It's a good topic.
You started it.
I didn't talk about. I guess I did talk about the birthday. Yeah, so we're gonna we got an old-fashioned insiders roundtable. We had a review that came in.
Let's go.
Yeah, so
We are currently accepting 5-star reviews.
we also have a handwritten letter, but we should probably, good old Serge, he actually checked to see if we got reviews, and we got one a couple weeks ago, and less than a week ago. And it says, it's a 5-star review. It says, great beer podcast.
Hey.
I've been listening for a long time and have reviewed before, as well as writing in a couple times. Hey, you know what I say about reviews? Early and often.
Yeah, right. Chicago voting.
I'm very behind in my podcast, so I only recently listened to the 10th anniversary of the Beer Temple show, which lamented the lack of reviews. So here's another one. Since the show switched to the Insiders Roundtable to the current format, I've continued to enjoy listening, although I admit I still enjoy the Roundtable shows the best. Well, you're in luck. Mike has been a great addition as co-host, as the banter between him and Chris livens things up even more. See?
Nice.
Birthday banter, all sorts of stuff.
I forgot I wrote this review.
Yeah. Keep the show going and keep bringing interesting guests on.
Did that today.
Yep. One of these days, I'll get back to the Chicago to the Beer Temple. Thanks, Bill. And then I can see what Serge had been listening to at the time, and it says Ira Glass. And for a moment, I thought Ira Glass had written the review, and I was really excited.
Podcast dad
Bill's
himself.
great too. Bill's awesome, but I thought Ira Glass and
Today's 4 parts.
yeah. I mean, if he's a fan of your podcast, then come on.
Yeah.
And apparently has written in multiple times and already reviewed once.
Podcast
He'd be like
Adam.
a super fan.
Yeah.
Ira Glass.
He was a Chicago guy for a while, right? No, he's a Baltimore guy.
Yeah. Well, he was working out of here.
Yeah.
Should we introduce the guests? We got a whole bunch.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Then the
so
show will probably be over.
who's the senior guest on today's show? You think it's Mr.
Dan,
Santa Fahey?
Well, you said
Could
his
be
name already,
Donn.
so
I think it's you. I
No
think
way.
it is.
it
think it's
feels like a
Donn?
tie of everyone.
Well, it's you. You
Introduce them all at
spoke.
once.
So
My
the
bad.
crusher on himself, Mr. Pat Santa Fahey. How are you?
I am just swell. It is great to be here virtually. I missed Chicago. I hear it's nice there right now. Don said he was picking tomatoes this morning.
Yeah.
Picking tomatoes.
Were they
true
your
story.
tomatoes?
Actually, they were not. They were in my neighbor's yard.
Real Mr. McGregor
Poaching.
situation.
You were poaching
Poaching tomatoes.
tomatoes. Okay.
It's technically
Sorry,
illegal.
wasn't trying to expose you, Don. Sorry.
he's doxed him.
What else? What else is new? You've been probably jet setting all over the place. It seems like you and Avery are always at some fancy beer festival.
We're certainly not always doing that, but we've been doing a lot of it recently. Yeah, we were kind of all over the place. Do we still talk about like the beer we're drinking and why we're excited about it?
Yeah, do it. Go for it.
So I'm gonna do it. So yeah, we've fall season's been pretty busy for a number of different festivals around the country. But one in particular that I really enjoyed, we went and did this little event at a brewery called Good Word. They're in Duluth, Georgia, just outside of Atlanta. Not sure if anybody else on the podcast is familiar with them. They were doing a little Saison and Oysters event, and we were like, yeah, we're all in for that. But their thing is they mostly just do classic styles, specifically with like a focus on German lagers and English beers. Like I rolled into the tap room and they had 4 English beers on draft, all of them like 4% or lower. I was like in heaven. It was,
The rocks.
it was, and they're all good. It's incredible. So, I am drinking their Scorch the Earth, which is a Schwartz beer that they make, and it is freaking lovely.
Nice.
So yeah, there has been a bit of travel this fall. We're fortunately kind of done at this point. Our last trip actually was out to DC for Snallygaster. We were pouring out there, and now we're just back in Santa Fe, focusing on trying to get a brewery off the ground.
Well, that sounds like a fun last hurrah, I would say. Before you get
It was a good one for sure.
Yeah. I'm gonna get rid of that. There we go. That's way better. Getting my views set up for you guys. Perfect. Now I can really see your beautiful faces.
Riveting audio.
Yeah, it is. We'll cut that out in post.
Yeah, sure we will.
Serge will
Write
clean all
it
this
down,
up.
Serge.
Yeah, write it down. Mike to clean this up.
Chris swore that whole time. Just beep it out.
Yeah. Well, thanks for coming on. I think
Thanks for having me.
I think Mr. Bischsel is next. Mr. 3-tier Bev, according to his swagged out
3TB.
shirt. Yeah, 3TB, baby.
Sounds like a basketball player.
What's up with you, Don?
I just want to know where Avery is.
You have her location on your phone. We figured out.
Oh yeah, I
earlier.
forgot. I'm stalking her right now. I think she's back
True
in DC
story.
at a festival.
She loves that.
Do you want to tell me again how Rob is now your friend more than mine? Do you want to talk about that, Pat, on air?
Oh God, no! Are you kidding?
Just checking.
Are you guys fighting over Rob Todd?
Yeah, we're kind of fighting over Rob Todd, actually.
Oh wow.
It's a spat.
I would I would never fight with Donn over anything. I mean, Donn would win. It's just how it goes.
What a beta thing to say.
I mean,
Savage.
okay, all right, all right, Rogan.
I'll enjoy my sports beer with you back to listen to Donn talk.
What's up, Don?
Same old, just travels around the country. It's kind of fun to see all the trade organizations getting together for the first time, I think, in trade organization history between the Beer Institute, the Brewers Association, and the National Beer Wholesalers Association meetings that I've gone to over the past couple of weeks.
Yeah. Oh, those weren't all together, though.
No, but
that would be crazy.
They were. They've had members at each other's meetings, and it's been really nice to see everybody getting together for the health of beer and health of the category as a whole. I think with some of the pressure that's happening right now in the industry, it's kind of fun to see them actually trying to work together.
Yeah, it shows that they feel like they need to work together.
Yeah, it's kind of one of those things that we don't see often enough, putting aside their differences to try to work together. But I've been on the road a lot. I've gone to a lot of some of the big trade events, but it's been heartening to see, especially with some of the news we're going to talk about with some of the breweries in the Chicagoland area and across the country.
Were you at GABF?
I was at GABF.
Were you at GABF, Pat?
Yeah, we were out there for a few days, and unfortunately, Don and I lamented after the fact that we didn't get to cross paths. But yeah, we were out there. True Brewing did an event called Iron Maidens that featured like women-owned breweries or female brewers, and so we poured a couple beers in the little they call it the dumpster garden that they set up behind the brewery. It was a lot of fun.
Dumpster garden, love it. Well, cool. All right, so you're not going to talk about anyone famous that you've spoken to or hung out with?
No, we already talked about
Rob. Ran into.
We already talked about Rob Todd, and that's the only one that really matters in life.
Oh, please.
Mm-hmm.
You're being coy. I know. I mean, how long till you talk about running into Sam Calgione? I mean, yeah.
I did see him.
Yeah.
I saw Mariah. Actually, I saw Mariah. Mariah was, I enjoyed seeing Mariah, actually. She was at the Women in Beer event at NBWA. I think that was far more exciting than seeing Mr. Sam.
Okay.
But the beer, can I talk about the beer that I'm drinking, actually?
Yes, please.
Since I'm still kind of not drinking, I'm going on 2 years of being quote-unquote hangover free.
Yes.
I did break my no beer rule and surpassed 2 ounces and had a very tasty Miller High Life in the middle of Minnesota at a VFW before a wedding.
Oh.
But I did have almost 16 ounces of a 24-ounce Modelo at a U2 concert in Las Vegas. And I must say...
Oh, did you went to the Dome? You were at that one?
I did.
You were at that?
I went to the Sphere.
The Sphere, whatever.
Sphere.
Wow. What was that like?
It's
was it as cool as it looked on like videos, or is it even cooler?
It's even better with 16 ounces of Modelo.
Okay. Okay.
It's amazing, but everybody should go, actually, whether or not it's for U2 or whoever comes next.
Are the tickets spendy?
Very spendy, and
Okay.
we got ours, thankfully, at face price, and face price, I think, was $500 for a ticket, so it's very spendy.
So that 16 ounces of Modelo is probably cheap in comparison.
Yeah,
It was $19 for a 24-ounce Modelo.
Wow.
Okay. Well, everyone should do it.
Great.
If you have I highly recommend you pick one up if you have the means.
I recommend you getting a better job than going to the Sphere and drinking a $19
Yeah.
Modelo.
It looked amazing. Yeah. I mean, I think it's the only concert I've ever had to have my wife stop what she was doing. I'm like, you have to look at this. This is amazing. It's
I haven't seen
crazy
any of these videos.
Kelly Gavrick, who I used to
insane.
work with at Revolution and who's now at Pabst, she wanted to overly remind me that U2 still sucks, but it looked amazing at the Sphere. So even the U2 haters will admit that it's a.
You're a U2 fan?
I'm a huge U2 too big.
Okay,
But I'm also-
I thought maybe you were a Sphere fan.
No, I'm old. Remember how old I am. I'm
28.
forced
I
to
stand the
love you
Sphere.
too.
Yeah. Well, thanks for taking time out of your busy schedule to. Did you fly here? Is that how you just fly places now, right? Do you walk or drive, or do
I
you
heard
just
that-
take a private jet everywhere?
Are you asking if
Or
I took,
I think it's
helicopter?
helicopter.
did I take
takeoff.
my private 3-tier beverages
Hovercraft.
flying hovercraft
Hovercraft?
Yeah.
Maybe you got it out of the jeweler's.
all the
finally.
way from a
Bought
mile
it
and a half
used.
away in Logan Square to here?
Yeah.
Yes, I did.
Got a
actually.
lift from King Kona. I think next is.
Where's he been?
Yeah, I know. We got to get him back on. See what he's up
He's
to.
doing all right.
I think the coconut futures are doing very
Through
well.
the roof.
So I think he's doing just fine.
Yeah.
Would be my guess.
Always does. He always comes out on top.
Yeah. Our next guest is Ms. Shana Solarte, who informed me that she hasn't been on a. You haven't been on a roundtable in who knows?
Probably like a couple years.
Because we always have you on the Goofy shows.
I like the goofy shows.
Goofy shows. I like the Goofy
fun.
shows too. I mean, it's a. You should be proud that you're invited to Goofy
Yeah.
shows.
Yeah, that's a tough bar to clear.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like I maybe invented the goofy show. Probably came on for a roundtable, cracked wise too much, and you're like, uh-oh.
That's right.
Invented the Goofy show. That's
This
a
was
bold
always-
statement. I don't know how much you
out of,
listen to
out
the
of the
show.
gate, this
No,
was a
like,
very
really not that
serious
often.
show.
Yeah, yeah.
It still is a very serious show where we
Did
talk
that
about
lead
the
to a
issues.
2-year timeout? Is that
It
what
might have.
happened?
It might
Yeah.
have.
You were
Yeah.
funnier than us, so we said no more of
Cool
that.
it.
Yeah. What's new with you?
What's new with me? I've been traveling a lot lately too.
Jeez, everyone's traveling.
Work and fun, which is nice. It's usually just work. So I don't know what day it is or where I am. When you kicked us off and said it's October 24th, I looked at my watch. I
Yeah.
was like, oh, really? Okay, cool.
Why am I here? I don't know. What am I doing? I don't know.
It's a round table.
But I'm
I
here.
shouldn't be here.
And I'm gonna give it my all.
We're doing goofs.
Yeah.
Goofs
Doing
and gas.
Is there any beers that you had lately that you've enjoyed?
This might fold in nicely to our conversation later, but I've been drinking a hell of a lot of Rev's hop water,
Okay.
Nice.
so that might be a nice segue.
It's a good hop water.
It's a good hop water.
I think it might be the best hop water I've had.
It's the best one I've had.
Doug sent us a very funny review of that hop water.
Yes. You have it
Let me pull it up. It was a review of
on Untapped. So Untapped now you can put in hop water reviews.
yeah.
Of course. Why not? Why wouldn't you?
In this review,
Three bottle caps.
from a fake name, Matt Davis. That's 2 first names. You know that's not real. Rob Todd, I'm looking at you. Tastes like hoppy sparkling water, period. But they advertise it as sparkling hop water, period. 2.5 stars.
Awesome.
Yeah.
One of my favorite reviews of all
The
time.
best
pretty
ones
good.
are always nailed it, very low score. It's exactly what they told me it was.
I hope that's a
hated it,
troll.
and I hated it.
I hope that's a troll.
It's so bland of a troll that it's perfect.
And also, like, it's if it is a troll, it's amazing because
It's restraint.
it's restraint, and also knowing that like giving a 2.5 bottle cap review to a hop water is meaningless because no one's using Untapped to pick their hop water.
Matt Davis is.
No, he's just reviewing it for the
That's a
next
good
guy.
point. Good point.
If he's not a troll. If he's not a troll, he is an utter moron.
Well, why are those
Matt
exclusionary?
Davis, are you listening?
That could be.
Well,
That could
he
be
is
it.
certainly
That Venn
a
diagram
moron.
might be a circle.
Yeah, that's true. Oh
Matt
my
Davis is going to leave you guys a 2.5-star review of the podcast. You
that
should
would
watch
be
it.
bottle cap,
so
2.5
amazing.
bottle
You know,
cap
they
review.
called
They
it
say
the
it's a-
Beer Temple podcast, but it's really a podcast they record at the Beer Temple.
That would be the best 2.5 stars.
2.5
Well,
stars.
I don't know if that would beat the Allagash White of a podcast 3 stars. That was still the best
Yeah.
review we've ever gotten.
Yes. Well, we have one more guest to introduce. Last but certainly not least, a long time since this gentleman's been on. We've got Well, Dan the banker. How do you want to be introduced? How do you want to be? You're very cagey, Dan, about how you want to be referred to. Okay.
I mean, I used to be a regular guest until I had to adopt a pseudonym when I went into civil service. So
That's true. That's true. How are you? It's been a long time.
doing good.
Serge, can you scramble
feel
his
like
voice?
I'm getting back to my roots of just showing up.
Yeah.
About an hour ago. So
Yeah. Pat suggested that you come on, and I was like, heck yeah, let's get Dan on.
do it.
Yeah. Are you in? You're in Washington D.C. area.
Yes, I
still?
What is your address?
Correct.
Yeah, give us your exact
Yeah, let's just
address.
put it out there.
Share your location with Shana's phone. Yeah.
I'll share it with Donn.
Okay, and then she'll share it with Donn. Well, what's new with you, man?
I'm good. Yeah, I'm good. Living the retired banker life. So, and doing some stuff in the beer space with the Brewers Association professionally, which was kind of cool,
Oh, cool.
a few months back. And Avery was on an event that I was hosting, so that was pretty cool.
Very cool. Any beers you've had lately that you've enjoyed?
I have taken the opportunity. I'm having a Revolution double barrel barley wine right now.
Oh,
Your
Pat's
takes
talking
make
about
it spicy.
4% beers, and I figured I would, I don't know.
add
Whatever
10, add a
4
digit
times
to
4
that.
is.
Yeah, drink 4 of them at the same time.
Check in with
exactly.
Dan in like 20 minutes.
Yeah.
You know what really stinks about banking?
This
Yeah,
one,
Here's 16%. Let's do some.
there is this one real jerk off. Let me tell
the
you who he
ABV in
was.
this is almost as high as interest rates right now.
Right.
But
Yeah,
you got a rim shot on there. Okay.
game is now tied. Don wanted me to know.
Go Snakes.
Don't say that.
Don't say that.
Okay.
Nobody wants to see that World Series.
Right, exactly. Thank you.
Yeah,
Don.
everyone wants to see the Phillies.
Yeah, everyone wants to see. Everyone who isn't a Yankees fan.
Really? You think other people like Phillies fans?
No.
That's such a Philly fan take. Everyone loves us except, actually, it's the anti-Philly fan take.
The
No one
Yankees
likes us.
are, I think, the most hated team in baseball.
But
by
also
far.
the most loved. They elicit strong emotions.
Fine. You just said that about the Phillies, I believe, but
No, I didn't.
yes, you did.
No, I didn't.
Yeah, but besides St. Louis, like who
took
hates
it
the
that
Cubs? Everybody loves the Cubs.
That's true.
Everyone likes the Cubs,
Cubs
except for
are-
Southsiders. They don't like the Cubs.
That's true.
Yeah, but
They also have never seen baseball in their lives.
Wow. Ooh, my mom's going to come at Don after listening to this episode. Jesus. Beverly gal.
so we're having a lot of yucks right here, but I think
I blame Shana.
I do too. She invented the Goofy show.
Two
Goofy
years,
show.
2 years off. This is it.
This is not good. I'm gonna have to turn off my phone. I'll put that over there. Okay. So you take it from here. I'm a little distressed right now.
Okay. Well, while it has been a goofy show, we're going to talk about kind of not goofy stuff.
I gotta go.
One of a beloved Chicago brewery recently filed for bankruptcy, which is Metropolitan, which is one of the original. Well, I guess after Goose, you would say they're one of the first third wave breweries, right? Or second wave breweries. What would you call them?
I'd say they're one of the first second wave breweries. It was them and
Half Acre,
and Half Acre and Finch.
Finch. I would put Rev in. Is Rev too early?
Maybe Rev was just a little after them, but it was those three that I think were kind of the first the first new breweries in Chicago in decades.
Right. For those who don't know, Metro is a lager-focused brewery. They were brewing out of Ravenswood and then moved into a much bigger facility.
I mean, Doug was on the show not that long ago.
Right, on our lager episode.
Yeah.
They moved to a bigger
Co-founders.
facility and not far from here, actually.
Yeah, a couple blocks from here.
And then they got into a dispute with their landlord.
Yes.
And I think that's where a lot of this stems from.
I think that's what it all stems from, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So they filed Chapter 11.
Yeah,
is
Chapter
it, I believe?
11.
Yeah. So yeah, I wanted to talk about that, put that in the context of the rest of the industry, what's going on, and pretty big news. And then also, we've talked about how Low Res announced its closure. There's a bunch of other breweries that have announced their closures in the Chicago area, let alone outside the Chicago area this year.
I think the 12-month running tally of Illinois breweries, so not like 2023, but the last like trailing 12 months is somewhere between 25 and 28 breweries that have closed. And Metro technically doesn't count as that because they haven't closed. Chapter 11 is their intention is to restructure.
We'll have to ask somebody with a banking background what that means, maybe. But I did talk to Jack. Oh, my God. My brain is melting.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Jack O'Connor.
Jack O'Connor's in that space, yeah.
Jack O'Connor,
Okay.
yeah.
Oh, the lawyer.
Yeah.
And he does some beer stuff and does some bankruptcy stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
of course. Okay, sorry, my bad.
yeah, and my interpretation, I don't want to put words in his mouth. So it was my interpretation.
Bring up his name and say what he said.
What?
Nothing.
Yeah.
What did he say?
You being a nice guy over there?
Of course.
Okay. He was saying that it sounded like Metro was attempting. So should we go back a little bit and talk about the basis of what they're saying this is about? I mean, Chapter 11.
They got into a dispute with their landlord.
Anyone chime in, by the way. Don't wait.
Right.
Don't wait to be called on. You're all.
They got into a dispute with their landlord because their space is big, and originally
Very big.
part of it had 2 stories, and they got the second story removed to put taller tanks in, and then didn't realize that the total amount of rent they were paying remained the same. They were thinking that their per square foot rent would go down because they didn't have that second floor anymore.
And we don't know exactly why they thought that. Maybe they had discussed it. Maybe they hadn't.
Right. But they ended up signing a lease for the total amount as if it were, not as if it were still there, but it's the total square footage of the building.
Including the area they took out.
Right. And so the gross amount of their lease was as if it was there in their original per square foot.
Right.
Understanding of it. They figured out that that was the case and then didn't think that was right. Had a dispute with their landlord, withheld some rent. The landlord wasn't super psyched about that. They're somewhere in the neighborhood now of the landlord claiming between back rent and fees for the lease they signed, somewhere around $1 million owed.
And
We're
what?
higher. than that.
Somebody here.
I've been
saying
seeing
more
different
than
numbers in different articles. There was 800,000. There, I've seen 1 million. I've seen 1.2. Are you saying you've seen a higher number?
Yeah, I've seen like between 2 and 3, but a lot of it is interest.
Oh wow. Okay. Yeah.
Wow. Oh, like with penalties, because I
Yeah.
think some of those leases with
Is that
the penalty
Is that
can be
the
brutal.
lease that the month out they owe their landlord, or is that their total debt load,
I think
including what they owe their landlord?
I think it might be total.
Yeah.
Okay,
I think
yeah.
they have like $1
There
million.
was
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead, Dan.
there was a Tribune article a few days back, which had about $1 million in debt owed, another 300,000 owed to the Small Business Administration, and $1 million plus in back rent. So you're about $2.5 million on a company
total.
with stated revenues in that article. Revenues are around $2 million.
Right.
And what I took from my conversation with Jack was that this restructuring, this filing of Chapter 11, was trying to push, coerce, convince, again, my words, not his, the landlord to restructure the lease is why they did it. But yeah, I mean, never want to take that step. I would think if you don't have to.
Yeah. Not the best. Doesn't feel like a strong move
No,
to make.
doesn't. No,
It's like we got a lot of options open. Let's file for bankruptcy.
right? Exactly. Yeah. No, not many people's first option. So yeah, like, what does that mean, Dan? Like, as a banker, like, you said they have something? What would you say, 2 to 2.5 million roughly in debt, and they earn
I think 2.1 was their stated
earnings.
revenue, and
Yeah.
they assume they're going to do that much this year as well.
All right, so let's say it's roughly 100%. Like what? Frame that for me, if you would, Dan.
It's pretty bad.
Okay, pretty bad. Pretty bad, or
Really bad. I mean, I remember reading about this when the rent dispute started. It got some coverage, locally a few years back, and if you just think of the debts, like the amount of leverage and impact on cash flow, you have, rents of, I think, somewhere in the mid 20,000 a month. You have a debt service on $1 million loan and another 30-year economic injury loan. That's a massive nut every single month. And as they try to restructure, I think they were Chapter 11, if I remember.
Yeah.
I'll look that up. But so they're trying to reorganize with the idea of effectively shedding some debt and some expenses to try and restructure. But it's a pretty tough position to come out from under.
So like what with the restructuring, like what do you think they're hoping for? Like, I mean, obviously you don't know, but you're just, I mean,
broadly speaking, relief. They're trying. They're over levered relative to the performance of the company. So they get into the going concern viability discussion in an article, right? Like, there's challenges out of the pandemic. That they're dealing with, but at the end of the day, if you think about back rents as another debt payment, essentially, it becomes a little bit of an albatross around any company's neck if they're trying to figure out how to get out from under that, and then who's going to take the haircut, right? Because the business doesn't want to pay the debts in full, the banks are going to want their money, the landlord wants their money. I can guarantee you the SBA is going to want their money.
Yeah, I mean, as you said, like when you were in the getting
my money back.
Yeah,
business.
getting my money back
Correct.
business, right?
And even before that, I did special assets and turnaround work. That's one of the places I knew Jack from, and in addition to the show. Yeah, it's going to be pretty tough. I don't know the folks at Metro. I enjoy their beers and have been there a handful of times, but it is not a good situation.
Okay. Yeah. Not a fun topic, but yeah. And it seems to me like, I mean, what I've heard a lot of people say is, but their place, it's always so busy when I'm there. And it is busy. I mean, they crush it at their tap room. So like then what's the deal then, right? I mean, I'm playing.
Right, sure. Well, this show is notorious for saying that tap rooms are easy to run and basically just print $1 bazillion with no costs.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that's not the case. But also, when you have a 24,000 square foot facility,
Sure.
That's not meant to sustain a tap room, no matter how
Right.
popular your tap room is. That's meant
Right.
for pretty heavy distribution.
Right.
Especially when you think about that they have a distributor.
Mm-hmm.
So when I worked at Pipeworks, I think they had about 20 to 22,000 square feet, which is more than they probably needed, and a lot of that was because they self-distributed.
Right.
So they probably
Kind
had
of two businesses.
they had a several thousand square foot cold room that they needed to have to warehouse the beer for as long as it was, because when you have a distributor, if you time it right, you should be able to go to the distributor relatively quickly, and you shouldn't be warehousing too much of it. So 24,000 square feet is a big production facility. Now, I don't know how much of that is tap room or how
Right.
much of that is the patio. Or
And how much are they producing out of that? I mean, Donn, do you know how much Metro is producing, or is that just self-reported stuff?
Yeah, it's just self-reported. I don't know. I mean, I can look up what's showing up in scan, but it's going to be very small for them. I couldn't even begin to guess.
If you want to do like back of the napkin reverse osmosis math on 2.1 million, I mean, say they do 500 barrels. Well, how much do you think they're doing out of their tap room? 500 barrels out of their tap room or something? Like, that would be a pretty good tap room business.
I don't know.
That gets you almost most of the way there. So
Let
depending.
me pose a question this way, Mike.
Yeah.
How much money? What's the margin on a pint of beer in dollars? Just real rough number.
It depends. I mean, hard cost of goods sold on a tap room pint is probably like, not including labor or overhead, is like 10%. So I don't know.
Yeah, 10x mark, essentially.
I mean, you don't include labor or your rent or anything in that, but you
got a $29,000 a month rent payment.
Yeah, which
how many pints you got to move?
Right,
a lot.
Especially
Especially if you're not like sending as much to distro, which I think clearly the intention was to send beer to distro when you have a facility of that size, and for whatever reason, it doesn't seem like that's a channel that's very robust for them right now.
No, it seems to have shrunk.
Yeah.
I think without question has shrunk.
Right.
So they moved into a bigger space, more expensive space, are doing more business, on premise, more lucrative business, but it seems like their position in the market overall has decreased.
Yeah.
And there's more competition now too.
Right.
I mean, they were the only lager game in town, and now there's
for like 8 years.
Yeah, now there's at least two other lager only. I think there's more, but there's at least two well-known lager only breweries in the area, and a lot more who kind of like don't only do lagers, but
have taken
really
the stage.
specialize. Yeah, have kind of like put out their elbows from above and from below. You know, so from bigger than Metro and from the little guys kind of nipping at their heels as well. Yeah.
Dan, when someone files for Chapter 11 like this with the intention of restructuring, with the debt to revenue ratio that they have, what are typical outcomes for that? Do they actually get to restructure and continue operating, or does that shift into some other type of bankruptcy typically?
I mean, 11's restructuring, 7's liquidation.
Right.
And, you know, it's been a while since I've worked on a bankruptcy case, and every case is a little unique, but debt to revenue when you're starting to talk over 100% is pretty tough.
Right.
And I think it's just a matter of where's the haircut coming from, and how much, you know, beyond just the debt load and the revenue, but like what's the operating profit of the company? What sort of cash flow are they putting out? What can they afford? You know, what can they afford?
What cash do they have on hand? I mean, they have some of this debt, but could some of that debt have been not still just sitting liquid somewhere? Maybe. I mean, who knows? I guess it could be.
Yeah, I mean, there's a number of questions. You know, the Tribune article talked about, you know, a PPP loan back in 2020, about the time of the eviction notice. The idle loan would have brought in additional cash. The bank debt would have been for equipment and maybe tap room build out. And then the back rents. I mean, that's the pervert. You know, that's like the same as any one of us having a bunch of money on a credit card debt. You know, on credit cards, right? Like It's just kind of eating at you, and it's not contributing. It didn't fund anything. It's not producing. You know, you didn't buy a new equipment that's going to produce new beer that you're going to be able to sell. It's effectively, you know, past leverage for past losses. Right. And I think that's the hardest thing to get out of.
And just doing some quick math of like what their revenues are and what their rent currently is, because the numbers were actually in the most recent Tribune article. Their biggest issue is definitely not, even at the inflated size of their building they have that they probably don't need, it's not that out of whack, right? Like it's 13% of their monthly revenue goes to rent. And even if, and it's at below market, it's $8.50 a square foot per year, which is crazy low. Mm-hmm. So even if they get the landlord to do something or rent them less space, like the problem is they got to make more money. Like, you know, like I don't see how paying like less in rent is really going to fundamentally change.
I mean, to your guys' point, I think it's a confluence of a number of things, and it's to the point that we were kind of talking about earlier, where you're seeing all of these other closures happening. Part of it's I would imagine is just like tightening of the market. And Chris, to the point that you were making, like being the only lager game in town for a long time, I think was great for them. Now that there are so many other lagers out there, whether it's a straight up lager brewery like Dovetail or Goldfinger, or just any of the numerous other breweries out there that are also making lagers, like that is got to just tear into their distro sales. And so I would imagine it's as much kind of the issues with the rent and the issues with other things as it is just like it's a tougher market now than it once was. And I think that a lot of people are feeling that.
Yeah.
And leverage. Sorry,
Chris.
Chris.
No, go on, Dan.
No, I was saying leverage kills you. Like leverage kills you in a tightening market, right? Because it's like the constant drumbeat of a payment. Every month you got your rent. Every month you got your bank payments. You know, in a case, you know, whatever you're doing about the back rent piece. But it doesn't allow you to adjust. It doesn't allow you to try and change directions because you're locked into a constant payment. And that's, you know, there's, you know, they reference PPP, they reference the EIDL program. There's a lot of liquidity that got pumped into the market in 2020 during the pandemic response, right? Chris, I remember doing, you know, I think 2 podcasts with, you know, with you around that time, right? That started to burn off, you know, in 2021 and 2022. So I think the big issue is really the P&L, you know, what's their profit and loss statement? What are they running? And then, you know, as companies work through their cash and you know, there's overhead expenses, there's a number of other things in every business. And one of the things that's been hitting the, you know, beer, hospitality, you know, restaurant industry pretty hard has been labor. You know, labor costs have gone up considerably, material costs have gone up considerably, and so quickly in a way that's hard to pay for or pass forward to customers, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. So you got margin pressure, you got kind of expanding operational costs, overhead expenses. That's, you know, I think that, you know, into Pat, you know, the comments on kind of the competition and the tough market, that, you know, that's going to be a really difficult situation for a lot of companies. And this is going to be a theme that we keep hearing over and over.
And Metro had they had a lot of things going for them. They were early into this market. They were early into the lager game. I mean, they were so far ahead of everybody else on lagers. I mean, even nationally, they were one of the few lager-only brewers, like them and like Jack Abbey and like I don't even know who else from a craft perspective. They were with a really well-positioned local distributor here in Chicago, who then was acquired by Reyes, which, if you're in their book and doing well in that book, is not a bad thing necessarily. You know, could be a really good thing.
Yeah.
Certainly have the reach to get into a lot of different places. They had a lot of stuff going for them that a lot of other places don't.
Right.
So, you know, there's just, it's interesting. Don, you were looking at some stuff. Is there anything you wanted to mention?
Yeah, it's just kind of a tough look at the overall market. If you look just at Illinois only, you know, beer as a whole, the dollars are up over the last 52 weeks. I took a look at just a kind of a wide snapshot here. But dollars overall in beer sales over the last 52 weeks in Illinois are up 2.3%, with overall volume shares down 3.7%. And then if you start diving in and look specifically at Metropolitan, I mean, a lot of this may just be coming from the off-premise into the distribution as well. I mean, they're down 40% overall in dollars and down almost 50% in overall volume over the last year.
Yikes.
So, I mean, I think there you go.
Yeah.
I mean, they're diverting all their focus towards their tap room. They have,
as they should.
I mean,
their tap room, as we talked about, is
the best in the city, probably.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
without
Arguably
question,
the best in the city.
I mean,
Yeah, but if you rent 28,000 square feet, you can't just divert all of your attention to your tap room.
No, but I do.
You have to know it. You have to commit to the bit.
Yeah, or move into. I mean, there are options probably still for them, and I think that they're probably doing the right thing with trying to get some relief, because with having a facility like that, I mean, they could move into, especially with some of the other facilities closing here in Chicagoland or running into troubles themselves, they could run into doing some contract work for some other smaller breweries. And
They started doing some kind. They make sipes, right?
Yep, they do sipes.
But I just don't know if that's how much beer they're actually making.
Yeah.
I think we're also like, the numbers are obviously the numbers, and they tell the majority of the story. But going through the pandemic as a brewery owner, there was, and being housed in other people's breweries, there was very much this feeling of like, all right, we just got to get through this, and then it'll either all be okay or we'll figure it out on the other end. And we're on the other end now, right? Like, obviously things are relatively back to normal, and now it's people that people are figuring out like, okay, well, we made it through that, but what is this now? What's going forward? Is this even something I still want to do? Like, or was my IT job better, right? Like, there's a lot of kind of looking at what the brewing industry is and what the future of it is for a lot of people, and being like, is it worth like, this is more of a macro thing than it is just for Metropolitan, because they're clearly committed to it, but looking at it and being like, is it really worth all of this like work and effort and crazy lifestyle for a business that is no longer just up and to the right all of the time?
It's not Dusty anymore.
Yeah, no. Dust is still always is now and forever will be up and to the right. But
right, of course.
Yeah, I mean, like there's part of that too, right? Where if you're having trouble paying your loan, of course you don't want to go bankrupt, but like, I'm beating my head against the wall, working really hard, laborious hours. Like, is this really even worth the? Also, like, the myth of the entrepreneurs, like, you make your own schedule and you do that. Like, it's kind of
do,
but also like the beer makes your schedule too, right?
Well, if you're making it, yeah. So, Dan, is it realistic to think that Metro can stay in that space? And if not, is it realistic that they can lick their wounds and go to a smaller space and a different tap room and not have that? It would be a shame for them not to have that beautiful tap room right on the river and stuff like that. But are those who know, anything is possible? But does that sound realistic? Either of those scenarios, or is this just a Hail Mary before Chapter 7?
I don't know their situation, but I don't see it. They're certainly not staying there.
Yeah.
That's my guess. I mean, like, you got 7 figures of back rents.
Yeah, what's even the outlook for a business that is trying to find a new space, but everybody sort of knows what their dirty laundry is?
Yeah.
Right, and have had landlord disputes.
Right. Who would take that on?
That went against the because I think they kind of were brought to court or years ago, right?
I don't know if they were brought to court. It was made public, and then they sued their landlord.
Right, that's what it was.
It was a fraud suit against the landlord.
Yeah, it
was fraud?
It was
they,
that they
claimed
misrepresented the square footage or misrepresented the...
And that's what got tossed out.
the rate.
That all would have been in a lease.
Right. When you sign a commercial lease, it doesn't say you're paying $8.50 per square foot for $33,000. It says you are paying this amount. It's just a dollar number. So, yeah, I mean,
it doesn't look good, and that's shitty.
Yeah, I mean, it's the worst. I mean, it's the last thing you want to see happen,
right?
Especially with the history of that brewery here in Chicagoland and that location along the river. I mean,
right.
Yeah,
and if we're saying that, it seems that from our intuition that the majority of their revenue is coming from that tap room. If they were to move to another space with more agreeable rent, I suppose, but that rent rate is pretty agreeable for that square footage.
Right.
Would that even be a viable option? Really?
Right. And Shana alluded to, a landlord who saw that you withheld on your own,
agreed upon. Right?
Yeah. On your own accord, you decided to, withhold part of your rent and then sued the landlord and then had it thrown out and then still didn't make the, wasn't able to come to terms and kind of went public with some of this dirty laundry, that probably doesn't help. So then it's like, okay, well then I guess you have to buy a spot, but
Well,
how can
but
they? But if you're bankrupt, you can't borrow.
If you're $2 million in debt, you're
And
not
if you
going to get a.
and if you're liquid, if you have some liquid cash, you can't use it because you file Chapter 11. It has to go towards paying your debt.
Right.
Well, and the other piece there, and Dan and I were talking about this, that I think is also important to keep in mind in terms of hey, we'll just move to another spot perspective. If it's a tap room, the cost of getting a tap room set up are not outrageous. If you need to reconfigure a manufacturing space, like speaking as somebody who's in the process of getting ready to build out a manufacturing space, it is extremely expensive. It would be extremely material for them to be able to find another space and be like, all right, we need to either move all of our tanks and make sure that the utilities are appropriately sized and set up correct. That's an astronomical and very expensive lift in and of itself. I don't know. I can't imagine that being a realistic possibility, even if you didn't have this huge debt weight on top of you.
Right.
How long does Chapter 11? I mean, is there a standard time that it usually lasts, Dan? Does it have a horizon to it?
I can't say. I mean, the last time I've been dealing with those was at a time where the courts were really backed up after the financial crash, which certainly added some time to the process. But that it's one of the, and even beyond that, it's to Pat's point, I think it's one of the biggest challenges with a brewery who leases space. Chris, I know we've talked a little bit about it too, that breweries are kind of part hospitality, part manufacturing. And I think it's really tough for a manufacturer to not own their place of production because it leaves a lot of variables. Whenever your lease is up, all the investment it takes, Pat, your point on power and everything else, it's such a tough spot. And, I'll be curious to see how this plays out, but it's going to be a tough one.
Yeah. So seems to be fairly doom and gloom.
Once a company is filed for Chapter 11, how is it decided if they've successfully restructured and continue to operate, or if they have to then liquidate it? I genuinely have no idea. Obviously something has to happen. They can't just be like, we're in Chapter 11 for the rest of our lives, right?
Yeah, and I'm doing the same thing. I'm over here using trusty Google. I mean, it says that Chapter 11 can last 17 months. Larger and more complex cases can take up to 5 years. I mean, I don't even understand what that means.
Right.
You're not just going to be able to sit there on the sidelines for 5 years.
Right.
Right.
So they're in an odd limbo right now. That
Isn't everybody that they owe money to has to agree to the terms? It's not just we filed and so please help.
Yeah. I mean, and again, I'm just a little out of my depth in terms of the real estate piece, but if you're not paying your rent, it doesn't necessarily mean you get to stay in the property. It doesn't
Sure.
turn into commercial waters.
Right. Jeez.
Oh, yeah. Interesting.
Because they could argue we'll get a tenant in here who will pay.
Sure. Right. Yeah. I mean, the landlord. Yeah. I mean, presumably they have debt too on building that space out.
Right. I'm sure.
And developing it and stuff like that.
I mean, and they forewent or they took out 8,000 square feet of potentially leasable space to commit to this thing. So I'm sure they're not psyched about that.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting with Metro because they were definitely an anchor for this whole development.
tenant, yeah.
100%.
Any of us who went there when they first opened that new tap room remembers walking through basically an active construction site
For sure.
for the first year.
Yeah,
At least the first.
Yeah,
At
for
least.
years.
Yeah.
For a
And then
long time.
that patio was just gravel forever. So
Yep.
they relied on Metro to get people aware of the development. That was nothing before then.
Sure.
So maybe they've got some of that on their side. They bring in more people to that property than any other business that's in there
For sure.
at the moment.
But this sounds mean.
Yeah.
But is that a Metro thing or is that that space thing?
Right.
I mean, could somebody else come in and
Right.
be like,
exactly.
hey,
They've got
the
a
river's
distillery
still awesome.
right in there.
Yeah.
They've got, I think, like a ceramic studio in the
Coffee
building. They've got the
roaster,
coffee
distiller.
roaster.
Yeah.
They've got all sorts of stuff over
Barbecue.
there. It wasn't there before.
Right.
But who knows what could go in there now with a lot of space? They could subdivide it like crazy.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
like the lease rate quoted in the Tribune article of $8.50 a square foot is reflective of that.
Right. Yeah,
Right,
you
like
get
that
that
is a-
rate when
that's a
you're the first one in
sweetheart.
the building.
That's a
Reflective
sweetheart
of an anchor tenant.
Yeah, like commercial space like that. Like even in the same facility, they had spaces listed for $21 a square foot.
Right.
So or more. So those are also they're triple net leases. So which means you pay for certain
Everything.
upkeep and stuff like that. So it's more. They're paying more per square foot than that. But I don't think you'll never find something like that in Chicago. At least not right now at that
way.
rate. And even if it was at the say it was only for 24,000 square feet, that'd be nuts. But even at 33,000 square feet, which is what they were paying for, if you do the math on that, it's still under what a typical space like that is going for right now.
Well, and especially that location. I mean,
Right. And yeah. So with the waterfront view and stuff. So
The other question on that front is that if that's kind of what the leases are going for in that property right now, I mean, when did Metro move into that space? Does anybody remember?
It's like 2016, maybe?
No.
17?
Oh, wait. Yeah. I think it was. It was the year after or the
time moves
year
fast.
that we moved in here. Into this
October
space.
15.
October of 15.
Wow.
Yep.
I mean, so how long do you think that lease was? Maybe a 10-year?
I thought that.
I mean, this is the
article said
Tribune
15,
article.
right?
Signed a 15-year lease, October 15,
15-year.
investing
Okay.
$955,000 of their own money into a custom build-out.
Which that was something that is weird for this, where when you do a build out like that, oftentimes a landlord like that would agree to give you some tenant improvement allowance for stuff.
It's possible that they did.
Right.
You know, if they,
I'm
let's
sure.
say they sunk that much of their own money in, but they could have gotten a TI allowance too.
Sure.
Yeah. And then there's the bank debt. What the
Right.
bank was, what the bank's for is, some equipment. I wouldn't be surprised if there's some build out in that too.
Yeah.
Right. That's true. Yeah. Doing the plumbing or whatever it was. Yeah. Well,
Heart goes out
Yeah.
at the very
absolutely.
least. It's not a situation you want to see anybody in.
No, and I'm sure when they were doing their 5-10 year projections of how much beer they were going to sell, this was not something they would have ever foreseen happening in 2015. 2015 was when everyone was doubling every year,
Yeah.
And so they were probably thinking they'd be making 20,000 barrels of beer right now or something crazy.
Sure.
And it wasn't crazy in 2015 to project something like that.
right. And have the scan data, which is valuable. I mean, scan data to scan data year over year be down 35% is
Right.
oof.
You never put that in your projections and then in year 8 we're going to go down 40% at
Can't wait.
yeah, it's
Right.
like it's stuff happens and you can't predict it.
A lot of people made crazier bets in 2015 in the beer space.
Oh, for sure.
So
Oh yeah. So one of the things that 3-Tier Consulting had reported on was that Craft's total points of distribution declining 2%, just over 2% in the last year. What does that mean? What are total points of distribution, Donn?
Well, what we're capturing is still, once again, just going to be captured through the chain. So this isn't going to be capturing anything in the independent channel, anything in the on-premise as well. So it's really important to remember what this is looking at. So there's an awful lot of this that we can't see. But when you look overall, especially at some of the bigger breweries, you're looking at it capturing 70 to 80% of their points of distribution. So this is if they're being scanned at any single one location. So if just one product crosses across that register, it counts as a point of distribution. But craft, it's kind of the full story hasn't been told yet, just because of the fact that the fall traditional resets that mirror up with the spring resets haven't been completed yet. But there is some good news in all of this. And the good news is in markets that are mature, where craft is losing shares and they're switching over to some either spirit-based RTDs or others, overall family brands in craft are seeing...
What does that mean, overall family brands?
It means if you take a half acre and you combine the daisy cutter and the bodum together and everything that falls underneath that family.
Okay.
You're seeing the overall family increase in rate of sale per point of distribution.
What does that mean?
It means that once you end up skimming the fat, you're seeing an increase because the consumer is seeing what they really want to see from the brands, which is not 9 or 10 SKUs out there in the marketplace. They're seeing the 3 or 4 that really sell and have always sold. So that's what we're starting to see, especially in
like
craft.
2 fast movers instead of 9 slow movers.
Yeah, so you're taking it, and so instead of watering it down and your consumer buying something that they might get home and not drink as quickly, they're buying the flagships or the second beer or the third beer. And so overall, their rate of sale is increasing. Now, it's not going to look that warm and fuzzy for a craft brewery when they start to see some of their brands drop off the edge of a cliff. But there is light at the end of that tunnel if they can start over-communicating out to their retailers and their consumers what their 1, 2, 3 focus is. So, I mean, there's good news and bad news out there.
Yeah, so it's about your flagships and the kind of supporting pillars to that flagship is what it sounds like.
I mean, it's like
more than it has been.
Yeah, it's like when the ponies go off when you're at the Kentucky Derby. I mean, you see, 30 horses go off, and you pick the prettiest name and you pick the prettiest color, and there's only ever 6 horses in that race that ever really have a chance of winning. And occasionally that long shot is going to come and win every once in a while. But what we're doing here is we are getting back to the focus on the things that actually sell. I mean, craft got too far. It got too many points of distribution that it didn't necessarily deserve.
And you mean too many SKUs?
Too many SKUs.
Okay. Is a point of distribution and a SKU the same thing?
Not necessarily. A point of distribution can just be one for a brand family, or it can be multiple points of distribution with the multiple different styles that a brand family has. I'm talking specifically about every single point of distribution within a company's portfolio.
Okay. But they're somewhat related.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because, some breweries only have one.
Right. Yeah, and I think we're seeing, even at places like Beer Temple, I think you start to see the breweries that are doing that Pokemonification and that new, it's starting to slow down. The new release every week, the 2 new beers every week. There were breweries that were doing, and there still are a few that are doing 2 new beers every single week, and it's and they used to all fly, just get it in, sold out, pre-sell them, sold out, and other people try to do that, and other people try to do it, and I think people just got kind of tired of it, and then you have stuff kind of slowing down distribution. I don't know if this ties directly into like Metro necessarily, because they weren't really ever in that.
No, they were
race.
quite the opposite.
They were the opposite. They kind of
skipped that entire thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It does speak to like the maturation of the craft beer consumer and what they're looking for. You got to stop looking.
It's over. It's over.
And whereas during the huge growth period, it was people were looking for exploration and new experiences, and a more mature craft beer consumer doesn't want that as much, either because they had things they didn't like as much, or because they just found things that they really do like, or just they don't have the time and attention. Like millennials that drove a lot of the craft beer boom are older, and they have kids, and they have more intense jobs, and they're not, they're not putting so much of themselves and their time and energy into where do I find the new drop from whatever this brewery is, and they're putting it into their lives. And so it makes a lot of sense that you see a slimming of the space in their brain and their stomach that can be taken up by different brands or different iterations on the same ideas.
Right. Yeah, I guess they just don't have the mind space to.
It takes a lot of time to like keep track of all that stuff, and I think Mike, I really think that is like a big piece of it. Is that for so many people, it was like for a lot of millennials, I think at a maybe earlier point in their life, it was like an all-consuming hobby.
Yeah,
like to know what was going on and keep track and try to get around and taste all of these things. And I think to your point, like people in that generation are getting older and they're not doing that as much. And the generation that's coming behind them is not engaging with beer in the way that millennials did.
Well, look at the beer landscape they walked into too, right?
It's a
so
newness.
Crazy.
It's a newness that's missing. I mean, I certainly fall pretty squarely into the group that was coming into drinking age when craft beer was booming, and the next generation, the ones in their early 20s, mid 20s. I mean, I was nerding out like as soon as I could go into a bar, so I'm not a typical case, but like the people that are coming into it have a bajillion options, whereas I had like a couple hundred options. There is just so much, and it's just normal. And it was not normal when I was coming up. It was still new and exciting. And now, like, anyone who's coming into a place like the Beer Temple is like, well, I can't afford this. But also, there is so much on this list that whatever, I just get whatever. I don't have to parse through it.
And there's something to it where when I started getting into it, it was knowable, right? It was conceivable
100%.
that I could have all of the beers made in Chicago, and
Absolutely.
I could like get my arms around it.
You could spend a couple weekends of your summer just going around.
Yeah, like I worked at
hit all the spots.
West Lakeview Liquors and the Binnie's and Marcy's on Marcy Street, which had probably the most craft beers you could possibly see, and it still felt like I'm like, well, this is all of them. Like this is all the ones worth having, and now it's just they're just not the same. And so like the fact that it's infinite now means it's just like, well, why even bother engaging with it? Because I'll never feel like I know anything about this, or that I
not
have any know any
conquerable.
space. Yeah, right.
No one's coming into it now being like, I'm going to take over all of this.
Right.
But yeah,
I feel terrible when I see these lists of some of these breweries that have closed, and it's a terrible thing to admit that some of these breweries I just never even heard of.
Yeah,
I mean,
same.
it did just get to the point, and I think that you both just nailed it. I mean, you used to be able to wrap your arms around it and be able to walk in and say, I can try those 2 or 3 things. I mean, I gave up even, mentioning Hop Butcher, it got to the point that I did follow them when they were taking off, and I couldn't keep up. I mean, there was just so much, and that's not picking on them. It's just like all those breweries just one after another, after another, after another, and there was just nothing I could go back to that was always going to be there. And for me, as a, tiptoeing back into drinking beer occasionally again after taking a little break, I think my generation and everybody I know, I go back to what I know. I mean, I am so excited going back and seeing Sierra Nevada Pale Ale. Yeah. I'm excited about that. And I'm excited about seeing some of the staple beers and knowing and trusting when I'm going to spend those dollars, which have gotten expensive. I mean, over the last couple of years, as prices have gone up, and a pint of beer used to be $5 or $6, a pint of beer is $8 or $10 now.
Right.
So I want to know that that's going to be good. I want to know what it's going to taste like, and I think that more people are gravitating towards that.
On the flip side, I mean, wine isn't conquerable. You can't drink all the wine out there. Can't even come close to it. You probably can't even do it at a
Try me.
right. Even at like a Jewel, which is going to be all kind of like the same tier of wine, more or less, let alone the places at the specialty shops and stuff like that. But they seem to have found a way to still make it work. Also, wine is not putting out a new SKU
Well, that's exactly
every
right.
week.
Yeah,
Right,
I mean, you've got Cabernet, you have Shiraz,
Right.
you've got less, differentiation in breaking the styles down further and further. We don't have a hazy Cabernet. We don't have a
Not
you know,
yet.
There's not too much pastry wine out there.
It does exist, though. You ever been to Michigan?
I
does
have
exist.
seen
It does.
chocolate wine.
fruit wine.
Does mead count?
Yeah, right.
What is that? What does that show? Schitt's Creek or
Fruit wines.
Yeah, fruit wines.
A difference
Yeah,
in
fruit
wine
wines.
too is
so good.
the marketing of it, right? Like kind of that wine, whether it's intentional or not, has this aloof, being more alluring kind of factor to it. Whereas, up until the "you're not worthy" Stone vibe, it was more like craft beer's branding and marketing was like, "Hey, buddy, let me show you something." Was kind of what breweries was the value proposition to people. Like, come over and hang out. We'll smoke a doobie on the couch and we'll drink some really cool IPAs. Whereas wine was more like, you probably won't get it.
I think, I don't know, I disagree with that a little bit.
Yeah.
But I'm also not in the audience for, hey, bro, come smoke a doobie with me. But that's a different show about why you get that vibe and I don't.
Sure.
But
yeah.
with wine, I feel like it's a lot more about like the house, the producer. People get really invested in the producer and they devour their whole catalog. And it's a thing in beer, maybe a little bit more with like the hype type places. But like, I don't know, nobody's, to bring up Metro, I guess, like nobody's saying I gotta have everything Metro puts out. But the wine producer, they're getting every vintage and they're
There
subscribed
are some
for
people like
years.
that, but not like wine.
Right.
Yeah, but the DTC, the direct to consumer, definitely helps with wine.
Yeah.
Because I do know that any time that I end up out at Napa, suddenly I end up getting bottles for every single month for the next 3 years until I shut it off.
You're in every club.
Yeah, every one of them. But before we go too far on that, I just wanted to just look at its numbers really quick and say one thing. Wine isn't healthy either. I mean, beer is down as far as volume and dollars because the price increases are propping it up.
Spirits are getting slaughtered too, right?
But wine is getting killed. I mean, wine is down 10% in volume, and they didn't take the big price increases that beer did. I mean, it's flat in overall dollars. I mean, it's spirits as well is down 1.6%, but up 3.7%. We're about to hit that death cross in February where we catch up to all the price increases that happened last year that are making up for the volume in dollars have been up, but volume has been down in overall sales. It's about to get a little bit uglier when we turn around into the springtime for all beer, wine, and spirits.
Could you explain that again? Like the crop, like what's going to happen?
Cross joint.
Well, everybody raised price in February of last year.
Yeah.
So we've been cycling numbers that are down as far as overall volume sales, but dollars have been up.
Right.
So when we have to go ahead and recycle those numbers
Right.
again as we come
The
around,
year
to the
over
end,
year
the
will
year over
be
year is gonna
apples
be
to apples.
it's going to be a mess.
Right.
It's going to be a mess because those dollars, unless they go up again, which it sure doesn't look like the consumer is going to eat another price increase. I mean, all the craft breweries, they crossed that magical threshold. We went from $9.99 6-packs to, for the big beers, I'm talking about the Bells of the world, the New Belgiums of the world, the Samuel Adams of the world.
Yeah.
They've all crossed into $10.99, $11.99,
Yeah.
that no man's land that the 4-pack 16 ounces used to play in. And they all used to live at $19.99 or below in 12 packs. They all went up to $22.99, $24.99 a 12-pack. So all those numbers are baked in, and the sales are dropping fast. So you've got commodity prices that are way up, labor that is way up that we talked about earlier. The breweries can't afford not to go up. So it's going to get to the point that price elasticity is starting to break, and people aren't buying as much because it's getting to the price where it's just not a simple luxury anymore, or an affordable luxury anymore.
Right. Fun times. That's great.
Yeah,
I'm gonna go get a beer.
Yeah, Pat, can I go back to picking tomatoes in my neighbor's yard? Because that
Yeah,
was
this is
a
what-
much better conversation earlier
Well,
today.
we have some more fun things to talk about. Why don't we freshen our glasses? We've got some lighter stuff to talk to. I've got a postcard with a bunch of jellyfish on it in my hand.
It's a very cool postcard.
Yeah, so we can talk about that. A few other fun things, and then we'll close things out. But we'll be back in a few minutes with the Beer Temple Insiders Roundtable.
And we're back with the Beer Temple Insiders Roundtable. I'm your co-host Mike Schlau of Is Was Brewing.
Some juicy gossip off mic.
Yeah, for the Patreon episode.
Yeah, we're recording it. So.
Yeah, I'm here with your co-host Chris Quinn, Donn Bischsel of 3 Tier Beverages, Shana Solarte of Omega Yeast. Right, that's where is that your only thing now, or do you have other projects you've gotten?
It's the one and only.
The one and only. Pat Santa Fahey of Crushing Beers. And,
until Pat convinces me to move to Santa Fe.
And was it Dan the Banker? What are we calling you?
Yeah.
Banker Dan.
Banker Dan sounds
Banker
better.
Dan.
It's very cagey.
Yeah.
Wait, does
Yeah,
she-
it's not like he
Low
gave very
profile.
specific information about who he works with and what he's in, that no one's going to figure it out.
does,
So,
does Schlau's
lucky-
voice? Does your voice get deeper in the second half? I mean, it sounds like it's getting like
I-
more groovy.
Yeah, maybe. I just feel a lot more comfortable now, I guess.
He's
Serge,
got great radio voice.
Thank you so much.
Can you adjust my levels for Mike's
He
mic?
can. He
Yeah,
can.
he does actually.
Too
have
bassy.
specific.
Too boomy.
My bad, sorry. Anyway, Chris, what are we talking about now?
We have a couple letters, so people like writing
letters.
in letters, not love letters. Well, yeah, love letters.
I love letters, and I love letters.
Yeah. Oh, I see what you're saying. So for anyone who wants to write in, you can send it to the Beer Temple. This gentleman sent it to our old address. It's probably still what's in Google, but it made its way here. So this is the old what is now a coffee shop, but it still made it here. But it's 3173 North Elston Avenue is the actual address in Chicago, 60618. Send it to the Beer Temple. This gentleman wrote Beer Temple Podcast. That works. You can send it to Serge's attention, Donn Bischsel's attention, care of Rob Todd, whoever. Or if you just want to send an electronic version of a letter, then you could send it to insiders@craftbeertemple.com. We have one of those too. But I think we should start with the postcard.
It's pretty long.
Yeah, it's a pretty long postcard. Chris and Mike, so it's addressed to both of us.
Sorry, Serge.
Yep. Sorry, Serge.
Yeah, that's kind of. I don't think that's very nice.
Episode 303, Jeopardy, was also fun for the audience.
Good to know.
Perhaps
Good
you
to know.
can consider making it a regular segment for your shows.
Don't tempt us.
Ben the Banker. Oh,
There can only be one.
Ben the Banker. Brighton postcards.
Wow, he's coming for that spot.
Ben the Banker.
All right.
Banker Dan.
Where's this postcard from? Tell us.
I don't know. How do you,
this
how
is
do you
a-
know?
So there's
How
no
can you
return.
tell?
Audio medium.
No return address.
Can you
Yeah.
describe the postcard for the audience?
It's got a whole bunch of different types of jellyfish on one side, and it's got a peppermint patty of the peanuts
Okay, so he's
sticker.
either from coastal Florida or Minnesota.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But yeah, so there's no way of knowing.
Land
Yeah.
of Jellies, Minnesota.
Yeah. Yes,
Yeah.
that's the one that's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, thank you,
Carol Stream.
Ben the Banker. No, that's where they all come through. They all say Carol Stream, don't they, when
he's
they get here?
Sent it from.
Yeah, that's what
somewhere
they all
around
say.
here.
Yeah,
We'll find you.
we'll find
Don't
you.
worry.
Thanks, Ben.
Yeah.
Dan will find you.
None of us will take it personally that you did.
Banker cage match.
I had a couple people come up to me and say that they really enjoyed that episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, so maybe we'll have to do it again.
We'll get Steven on the case.
Yeah, that's true. It's really all him.
We'll do one in like a year and a half.
Right.
Not for lack of trying.
Exactly. Well, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Ben.
Ben. If you want to let us know, we can send you out some merch. Just let us know if it's a is-was shirt or if it's a Beer Temple shirt and what size you take.
And then we'll get some more Is-Was shirts printed.
Wait a
Yeah.
minute.
If you don't have any of that, we'll
Wait
give
a
you a
minute.
cup.
There's
Get
merch.
some more.
Yeah, there's
Yeah,
merch.
if you write us
If you
a
write a
handwritten
handwritten letter, you get
What-
merch.
Get free merch. Did you write us a hand?
Or it could be 3-tier merch. Ben, if you'd rather have 3-tier beverage merch,
That's true. Let
you
us
can get
know.
some. We'll make it happen. We know Rob Todd, who knows Donn.
How many times have I done this show and I've never gotten any merch?
How many times have you written us a handwritten letter?
Well,
Sure.
I'm going to write you one right now.
All right.
All right.
Then do it some merch.
Yeah, we'll get you some merch.
Simple equation.
Donn is writing furiously over here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He
So
just
had
pulled out some parchment.
people
Is that
like
a quill?
Yeah, it is. He's got the old-fashioned. It's not a quill. He's got the old-fashioned fountain pens, like in Three Stooges, where
Yes.
you pull it back and you can squirt it into people's eyes.
Does anybody ever listen to this show this long to actually catch any of this?
I hope not.
If anyone hears the bit about the quill and the fountain pen,
Leave a
write it in.
review, and you
Right.
will
Leave a
absolutely get a
5-star
3-tier
review.
And I'll-
beverage.
I will definitely
how
send
about
you
that?
merch.
And you will definitely get 3-tier beverage merch. I will send a picture of it to Donn.
Reference the bit, and then Chris and I will immediately forget that happened. And
No.
what are they talking about?
No, we will. I will make sure that it gets to Donn,
All right.
and you will get either 3-tier beverage or Allagash merch, depending on where Donn is at the time.
Can we get co-branded merch?
Ooh, there you go.
I want a Rob Todd stand up.
We have another.
I think Andrew Tater has one of those,
He
doesn't he?
does, yeah.
We have an electronic letter as well. This one comes from Jeremy. Oh, so just a little note. Sign your letters the way you want to be referred to. So we're not just going to, drop your name. So he just says Jeremy. Dan is Dan the banker, Banker Dan, whatever he is.
Unless you're Pat, then we will refuse any hopes to change your name because you are
No, then we name
Pat
you.
Santa Fe.
Pat Santa
Santa
Fe.
Fe.
I mean, that's a pretty recent change,
Yeah,
And it's not going back.
right.
That's okay. I'm staying here for a while.
All right.
We miss you, though.
Jeremy writes, "Hi,
Miss you
insiders
guys.
et al. I know a handful of people who, quote, don't like beer but like sour beer. I'm sure you know people like this too. When beer nerds talk about sour beer, it could be Berliner Weiss, Lambic, Saison, Kettle Sour, Flanders, etc. When this, quote, doesn't like beer segment talks about sour beer, they typically mean something that is dominantly sour and or fruity in a way that makes it taste unlike traditional beer flavors, not hoppy, not malty, not bitter. When they go somewhere with a sour offering, they have no way to determine what they'd like because when they go somewhere with a sour offering, they have no way to determine what they'd like because so many beers labeled as sours are labeled according to beer nerd conventions and not actual taste. Even if there are sour options, and sour he always puts in quotes because, people... even if there are sour options, there could be nothing acceptable to this drinker's palate. It seems to me that this segment is being poorly served by the industry. Thoughts? Thanks, Jeremy."
I'm pretty sure we did this letter
Oh.
months ago.
Oh, I asked Serge. Serge said we hadn't.
I don't think you were on the
I
show.
legit,
Oh, I wasn't on the show.
Avery was on the show though.
I legitimately think I was on.
Yeah.
Or I popped in
Yeah.
when we talked about this letter. I was
Yeah.
like, this letter sounds very familiar.
Yeah, we did this one.
Why did you keep it in the inbox?
I don't know.
Wait, does this
Okay.
guy get merch twice?
Well, I haven't talked about it. He gets doubled up then.
I had some really
I didn't know
insightful things to say about
It's
it last
funny
time.
that-
So if you could just drop that on.
Yeah,
Roll
Serge,
tape,
Serge
Serge.
dropping the conversation from last time in, and
That would be
we're gonna
I
great.
thought that was a good
Go to the
letter.
bar. It
All
was a
right,
good letter.
Well, okay. There's another one we have, but it's way too long. I can't get into it. So I'd have to do some editing on this one. We don't have time. So now what we have to do is clown around for a few minutes
Back
and
to
then
the
end the show.
doldrums.
Yeah. Way to go. Way to go, Chris.
I didn't know your inbox etiquette. My apologies.
No, it's okay.
This was my first time using the shared inbox, and I'm sure my privileges will be revoked now.
It will be immediately revoked as of now. Well, then we have a couple other stories as well. I have a question for you guys. What do you think, if anything, of AB selling back Virtue Cider to Greg Hall? That's kind of an interesting thing. So he leaves Goose, starts Virtue Cider. sells to AB, gets into some sticky situations with paying farmers and stuff like that along the way.
Is that an apple juice joke?
Yeah, I thought so too. I thought that was pretty well played.
Nice, dude. Nice.
And now he's buying it back from them. Any thoughts or no? Nobody cares.
I care. I mean, in full disclosure, Three Tier Beverages did some work on this project, and
on the sale,
on some of the. I'm trying to see if I can put this right. On some of the information that Greg was putting together on opportunities for him to move the company in a different direction. I think that's a pretty good way to say it. Sure. And I think most people that know me know that I worked for Greg for a time when I ran sales at Goose Island back in, 2003, 2004, even though I didn't get my mention in Josh's fancy little book. I think it's fantastic. I think that good for Greg.
You mean Donn Bischsel, who worked for Greg for 2 years?
I got cut out of the book.
Was cut out of the book?
Yeah, completely cut out of the book.
Wow.
What kind of crap is that?
That's rough. What was your title?
Erase the episode we did with Josh about that book.
I was the director of sales.
Director of sales for Goose Island?
Yeah, that was my job.
Wow.
It's kind of sad, actually. I need a moment.
Cut out of the book.
Cut out of the book.
Wow.
Play some wistful music. Sir.
It's terrible. Actually,
were any other directors of sale mentioned in?
No, I don't think so. That was amazing.
Yeah.
No.
Okay. Anyway.
No, I think it's fantastic. Good for Greg. I think
you were
that
cut out of the book.
It's well, shit.
Never mind. All right. I'm sorry. Go on.
Sorry, Serge. You got to cut that swear out. No, I think it's fantastic. I think it's exciting to watch some of these founders get a hold of their breweries back again. I mean, I think of it this way: aren't they buying back their breweries with AB's money? But I think it's a great opportunity for them to move these breweries in a different direction. I mean, I think we've seen it with several of them, and to watch Greg have an opportunity to move this back into working on specialized ciders and more small format, the way that he would like to, and the way that he originally envisioned this brand. Will be exciting to see if he's able to make a run at it in this format. I think a little bit like back to Metropolitan in a positive note. I think it's a beautiful facility that he's got over there in Michigan. I think it's a destination facility, and I think that people will go there to enjoy the own premise and to purchase on site. And I think it's exciting, and it's exciting to have people like Greg and other industry veterans staying in the industry in some way, shape, or form.
It kind of reminds me of what's going on at Mickelhenny in San Diego. Did they? It seems like they've bought back or
Same thing.
Their original brewery.
Yeah. I mean, they changed the name, but it's the same space.
Right.
So
same vibes.
We might be talking to him soon if he ever gets back to our
It's on
email.
West Coast time.
Yeah, exactly. But
yeah, I think it's really cool. I remember when they were first opening Virtue, how exciting it was. And how genuinely unique and artisan the hopes were. They were making some really, really cool ciders made on lees, things that were ice distilled, things that were specific crushed apples, blends
very
that
different.
you just weren't you hadn't seen really in anything but very small artisanal produced American cider. And I don't know, things like Oliver's and Hogan's and those English wild ferment ciders are some of my favorite things, and you just don't get them here that much. So when they were making stuff like that, it was really cool.
Yeah, and he's going to go back to, that's their plan, is to go back to making those specialized ciders and specialized pack sizes and formats.
Which is I hope that's, what the real focus is. Because I know when you open something big like that, and especially at the time they were opening it and coming off what he had done, it's hard to be I just want to make Kieved ciders or something like that. But that's the cool stuff, that's where the heart of artisanal cider producing is. And because when it was owned by AB, I would drive by it and I'd be there's no way I'm going there. But now I'll probably stop in and see if they're making some cool stuff.
Yeah. All right. Well,
And I think originally they were like, we're gonna have pigs, and we're gonna like have this like
they have pigs.
Well, they do have pigs.
agro-tourism
And-
Giant
and-
pigs.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah,
They're
so
huge.
if they can get like, but it's hard to be like we're an agro-tourism site when you're owned by a huge multinational company, right? It just doesn't feel the same.
I just saw a picture today. Sandra Vox, who used to be the buyer at Jewel Osco for years, she now runs the store at Bell's. Actually, she runs their, I forget what they call it, their county store or whatever they call the Bell store. She runs that. She posted a picture today. She actually ran the tap room and the facility at Virtue Cider for a number of years.
Oh, cool.
And so she posted a picture today. She was actually back there just today. So it's kind of
I think I went to a Bears game with her one time.
interesting timing to be talking about this.
She was cool.
She is probably one of the people most responsible for the growth of craft beer in the mass merchandise grocery channel in Chicago. She was an early adopter.
Yeah.
So
Very cool. What do you think, Shana?
Yeah, what do you think about Virtue Cider?
What do I think about Virtue Cider?
Nothing?
I
you don't have to
think-
think anything.
I don't
think much
I don't
of
have
it.
much. I don't have a lot of opinions about Virtue Cider, other than I'm pretty sure my prediction last year was that AB was going to sell a bunch of brands off.
Ooh,
So I feel like I get to claim a dub for this.
I think you do.
and
Yeah.
you get some merch.
I hope I get some merch.
No, you got to write a handwritten letter.
Yeah.
You can't be
We know-
clairvoyant.
You know
and
the
hit
rules,
merch?
and so do I.
Damn it!
I mean, it could be his merch. He's just excited that he has merch.
I'd wear
Yeah.
a 3-tier shirt.
I actually have some in the car.
Exactly. Anything else, folks, that we need to hit up on? No?
I don't think so.
Okay. Next week, we have, well, it's interesting. We were supposed to do a West Coast special with Sean McElhenney and Julian Casablancas. No, I don't know. I don't know his last name. I don't know his
That guy's into West Coast IPAs.
big time.
The Strokes.
Who's not, bruh?
Bigly.
I guess the Strokes were coming of age when the West Coast was really popping.
Right.
He probably is a big Stone guy, I would imagine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nothing screams the Strokes like arrogant bastard. Ale.
Is Bagley's Pizza Port? Is that who that is?
He's his own thing now.
Is he? But
Yeah.
but he was
Yeah,
Pizza
he's
Port,
Pizza
right?
Port.
Yeah.
Anyway, it was supposed to be. Oh no! You know what we're doing next week?
I genuinely don't.
It's the snake draft, baby. It's back.
Oh, good thing we've hammered out all the
It's a
details
goofy
of that
show.
one.
Yeah. So we're gonna do another.
Goofy show.
We're doing another draft. We're doing a beer draft. You know, you've been on. Have you
Shane
been
will
on
be
the beer
back
draft?
next
No, the
week.
drafts are
Yeah,
always
Shane
the
is
same.
definitely coming
Oh,
back
that's
next
true.
week now,
Yeah.
right?
I don't think I've been on
Well,
a beer draft.
no, we have there's it's a league, and there's a certain number of GMs,
Right.
and those GM spots are hard to come by.
No
right.
room at the
You,
end.
you have to. I mean, you have to be willed one of these teams.
That's true.
basically. Someone has
Or
to die.
like black metal style, you can try to kill one of us.
It's true. You could do that. So that's what's next week, and then after that, it's the West Coast IPA extravaganza show.
I've put in a lot of time and effort in the show to not walk away tonight with merch or be invited to this snake draft. I mean, it's
They didn't even put
You
your
can come
name
and
on
watch
the
the
postcard.
snake draft if you want.
You can come, yeah. So So for those of you who like our goofy snake draft shows,
Us.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, us, yeah, we're the only ones. We'll have your boy. Your boy's
Your
going to
boy
be
will be
back.
on.
We'll see if he's
The king of lambic
if it's
glassware.
going to be ChatGPT or if we'll be here in person this time. We'll see. So either
forgot.
way, it's your
He had
boy.
such a bad allergic reaction, he couldn't come to the snake draft.
It's true. So that'll be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to that. And then we have the West Coast show with some heavy hitters who are making some badass West Coast IPAs. That'll be a lot of fun. And then after that, it's another roundtable. We're back to that again. So
All right.
yeah. So Bill not Ira Glass, should be happy to hear that there's another roundtable coming up soon.
I bet Ira Glass would like the roundtables.
Oh, he'd love it.
He's more of a snake draft guy.
Huge
though.
fan. Oh, of course.
Yeah, he likes the goofy sods.
He loves the goofs, the goof 'em ups.
The goose, the gaffs.
Let's thank everyone. Why don't you start first? Who do you want to thank?
Everyone. Ira Glass, Bill,
Ben.
Ben. That's it. That's
Okay.
it.
I want to thank Dan,
Oh,
Banker
right.
Dan,
Yeah.
and Pat Santa Fahey for zooming in, guys. Dan especially. I know it's late for you, so thanks for sticking up with our shenanigans and adding your insight about the Metro stuff. It was, I mean, as always, you just lend an air of credibility to this stuff that is mostly unappreciated. Unwelcomed.
It's a very jarring tone for the people that listen to this show now. Like, that guy sounds like he knows what he's actually talking about.
It's pretty messed up to walk away from here going, wow, I think I might have actually learned something.
Yeah, we can't have that. So tune in next week when we draft geographically based beers that get eliminated by some
based on
metric
how
that
many
we made up
bottle
20 minutes
caps they
before.
have. Yeah, exactly. But so thank you, Dan, and thanks, Pat, for suggesting Dan come on. So, shout out to you as well.
You're welcome. It's the least I could do. I mean,
Yeah, thanks, Pat.
Yeah.
You're welcome, Dan.
Thanks for suggesting that another guest come on, but for nothing else, Ted.
I was like, I could contribute to this, or I know somebody who could actually contribute to this.
And once again,
And
you've
that will be
ruined the
my
show with
contribution.
logic and smart ideas.
So let me
That's
ask
how
you.
I heard about Metro. I didn't know about it until Pat mentioned it hours ago. Like, oh wow.
It's not big news in Washington D.C. No.
Yeah.
Pat, what are you crushing lately? Are you still crushing? Or are you just not into it? Are you like, is that passe now?
He's not a player.
He can't
It's
stop.
certainly not passe. I definitely I crush less than I used to, but
Crushless.
when I crush, I crush. I mean,
He's not a player.
you know
He's
how it
crushed a
is.
lot.
That's our guy.
So what's the last?
Exactly.
What's the last really crushable beer you've had that you can remember? Like, ooh, this is a crushable beer.
And don't say Allagash White because Rob Todd is listening.
Right.
Yeah,
Exactly.
he's probably not. If
Don't
he
pander.
is,
At this beer fest, you must have been crushing
Wait,
something
can
at
you,
this beer fest.
Can you get Allagash there? Are they distributing there?
they are
No.
not. So whenever I'm in a place that has it, I drink it.
Oh my god.
Like we were out in DC, and I was like, Allagash White, great. We went to a festival. We poured at an Oktoberfest for Schilling in New Hampshire, and Donn was giving me a hard time about being up there, actually. But
Why?
How often you guys
Showing-
talk?
Too often.
too much, not enough. But they had Schilling they're like a small brewery in northern New Hampshire, focused on lagers. A lot of excellent beer. They had a Czech Dark on that was a true crusher. I mean, we got done with the festival on Saturday. We were just going to drive. We were flying out of New York. We were going to drive back on Sunday. I was ready to leave. And they handed me like a half liter of Czech Dark. And I was like, you know what? I don't care. It's 10 a.m. I don't feel like drinking this. It was beautiful. It's perfect. So
What time is it? It's crushing time.
Yeah.
That's what he
crushing
said.
It's
time.
crushing time.
That's what he said, basically.
Then he turns all green,
No,
rips
that's
all of his clothes.
No, that's the thing. It's
Yeah.
it's stomping time. He doesn't turn green. He turns orange.
Whatever.
Yeah.
They're all the same.
You're true.
I'm an adult. I don't know these things.
It's okay. It's okay. I'll teach you.
Thank you,
I'm a
Chris.
big fan of all that stuff.
I know
as
we've
you
had
know.
many conversations.
Yeah. Donn, thank you.
I just want to know, do you talk about Rob Todd when I'm not here, or is it only when I'm here? Because
We do talk about him when you're not on, but always in context to you.
I can vouch for that.
So we talk about him, but
Don
really
Bischsel's
only
friend, Rob
as
Todd.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
we do have to have him on the next time that I'm on.
I mean, talk is cheap.
Yeah. You Put your money where your mouth is.
He's
I think it
always
should
with
be
us,
you.
though.
I'll call
We'll
him.
have our own. You can have your own little show. It'll be you.
speakerphone notes.
It'll be you, Sam, and Rob talking about all the big shots that you hang out with.
That would be pretty sick, actually. Can we do that show? That'd be pretty fun.
I think I could actually make that happen.
We'd be like, who are these two bozos that you made that talk for the first 5
I
minutes?
think
of
we
this
shouldn't even be on the show. Just have them just be on the show
Yeah.
and talk about all the big shots that they like to hang around with.
The Beer Temple Big Shot Hour.
Yeah, exactly. And exotic locales that they hang out in.
It would be even better.
Rehoboth Beach.
Yeah, it'd be,
Like
even
Rehoboth.
better, it'd be even better if I wasn't here for the show. So
It's just a Zoom call between the two of them waiting for you to show up.
Let's talk about Donn. Well, you just talk about you.
Just them and Serge.
Who else knows Donn? And Shana, thank you as well for coming on a mostly non-goofy show. I think now next time when you're on for a goofy show, you'll be ready for it again.
Real
You know,
goofs.
reset.
I don't know. I think like kind of bummer shows might be my thing now.
Okay.
Just stick
Emo.
around for the really, really down episodes.
You're in your emo show phase.
I might
Yeah.
be.
It's not a phase, Mom.
Exactly.
It's
It's
an
not a
economic
phase, Serge. I want to be on the bummer shows.
It's an economic downturn.
Serge, can you go slam that door a few times for me?
Yeah.
Just-
You don't get me. Right. Well, thank you nonetheless, and I'm glad you enjoyed your downer bummer of a show.
so fun. Can't
Yeah.
wait to come back.
And
Dad.
thanks to Jeremy, who again wrote a great letter for the second time.
I thought you said you spoke in class today.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Roll tape again, Serge.
But we will see you all next. Well, we don't see you guys, but to all of
We
you
won't see
listening,
anyone.
you don't see it. You'll be hearing from us next week. And thanks so much, and so long.
Remember this is what we wanted. Remember this is what we said. To never be heard or seen from again, 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 again. Remember this is what we wanted. Remember this is what we said. To never be heard or seen from again, 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 again.